trap pulled up at the top of the cutting. We hastily alighted, and the inspector and I bade Bainbridge good-bye. He said that he only wished that he could stay with us for the night, assured us that little sleep would visit him, and that he would be back at the cutting at an early hour on the following morning. Then the noise of his horse's feet was heard fainter and fainter as he drove back over the frost-bound roads. The inspector and I ran along the little path to the wicket gate in the fence, stamping our feet on the hard ground to restore circulation after our cold drive. The next moment we were looking down upon the scene of the mysterious deaths, and a weird and lonely place it looked. The tunnel was at one end of the rock cutting, the sides of which ran sheer down to the line for over 150 feet. Above the tunnel's mouth the hills rose one upon the other. A more dreary place it would have been difficult to imagine. From a little clump of pines a delicate film of blue smoke rose straight up on the still air. This came from the chimney of the signal box. As we started to descend the precipitous path, the inspector sang out a cheery "Hullo!" and the man on duty in the box immediately answered. His voice echoed and reverberated down the cutting, and the next moment he appeared at the door of the box. He told us that he would be with us immediately, but we called back to him to stay where he was, and the next instant the inspector and I entered the box. "The first thing to do," said Henderson the inspector, "is to send the message down the line to announce our arrival." This he did, and in a few moments a crawling goods train came panting up the cutting. After signalling her through, we descended the wooden flight of stairs which led from the box down to the line, and walked along the metals towards the tunnel till we stood on the spot where poor Davidson had been found dead that morning. I examined the ground and all around it most carefully. Everything tallied exactly with the description I had received. There could be no possible way of approaching the spot except by going along the line, as the rocky sides of the cutting were inaccessible. "It's a most extraordinary thing, sir," said the signalman whom we had come to relieve. "Davidson had neither mark nor sign on him. There he lay, stone dead and cold, and not a bruise nowhere, but Pritchard had an awful wound at the back of the head. They say he got it by climbing the rocks. Here you can see the marks for yourself, sir. But now, is it likely that Pritchard would try to climb rocks like these, so steep as they are?" "Certainly not," I replied. "Then how do you account for the wound, sir?" asked the man with an anxious face. "I cannot tell you at present," I answered. "And you and Inspector Henderson are going to spend the night in the signal box?" "Yes." A horrified expression crept over the signalman's face. "God preserve you both," he said. "I wouldn't do it, not for £50. It's not the first time I have heard tell that Felwyn tunnel is haunted. But there, I won't say any more about that. It's a black business and has given trouble enough. There's poor Wynne, the same thing as convicted of the murder of Pritchard, but now they say that Davidson's death will clear him. Davidson was as good a fellow as you would come across this side of the country, but for the matter of that, so was Pritchard. The whole thing is terrible. It upsets one, that it do, sir." "I don't wonder at your feelings," I answered. "But now, see here. I want to make a most careful examination of everything. One of the theories is that Wynne crept down this rocky side and fractured Pritchard's skull. I believe such a feat to be impossible. On examining these rocks I see that a man might climb up the side of the tunnel as far as from 8 to 10 feet, utilizing the sharp projections of rock for that purpose. But it would be out of the question for any man to come down the cutting. No, the only way Wynne could have approached Pritchard was by the line itself." "But after all, the real thing to discover is this," I continued. "What killed Davidson? Whatever caused his death is, beyond doubt, equally responsible for Pritchard's. I am now going into the tunnel." Inspector Henderson went in with me. The place struck damp and chill. The walls were covered with green, evil-smelling fungi, and through the brickwork the moisture was oozing and had trickled down in long lines to the ground. Before us was nothing but dense darkness. When we reappeared, the signalman was lighting the red lamp on the post, which stood about 5 feet from the ground, just above the entrance to the tunnel. "Is there plenty of oil?" asked the inspector. "Yes, sir, plenty," replied the man. "Is there anything more I can do for either of you gentlemen?" he asked, pausing, and evidently dying to be off. "Nothing," answered Henderson. "I will wish you good evening." "Good evening to you both," said the man. He made his way quickly up the path and was soon lost to sight. Henderson and I then returned to the signal box. By this time it was nearly dark. "How many trains pass in the night?" I asked of the inspector. "There's the 10:20 down express," he said. "It will pass here about 10:40. Then there's the 11:45 up, and then not another train till the 6:30 local tomorrow morning. We shan't have a very lively time," he added. I approached the fire and bent over it, holding out my hands to try and get some warmth into them. "It will take a good deal to persuade me to go down to the tunnel, whatever I may see there," said the man. "I don't think, Mr. Bell, I'm a coward in any sense of the word, but there's something very uncanny about this place, right away from the rest of the world. I don't wonder one often hears of signalmen going mad in some of these lonely boxes. Have you any theory to account for these deaths, sir?" "None at present," I replied. "This second death puts the idea of Pritchard being murdered quite out of court," he continued. "I am sure of it," I answered. "And so am I, and that's one comfort," continued Henderson. "That poor girl, Lucy Ray, although she was to be blamed for her conduct, is much to be pitied now, and as to poor Wynne himself, he protests his innocence through thick and thin. He was a wild fellow, but not the sort to take the life of a fellow creature. I saw the doctor this afternoon while I was waiting for you at the inn, Mr. Bell, and also the police sergeant. They both say they do not know what Davidson died of. There was not the least sign of violence on the body." "Well, I am as puzzled as the rest of you," I said. "I have one or two theories in my mind, but none of them will quite fit the situation." The night was piercingly cold, and although there was not a breath of wind, the keen and frosty air penetrated into the lonely signal box. We spoke little, and both of us were doubtless absorbed by our own thoughts and speculations. As to Henderson, he looked distinctly uncomfortable, and I cannot say that my own feelings were too pleasant. Never had I been given a tougher problem to solve, and never had I been so utterly at my wits' end for a solution. Now and then the inspector got up and went to the telegraph instrument, which clicked distinctly away in its box. As he did so, he made some casual remark and then sat down again. After the 10:40 had gone through, there followed a period of silence which seemed almost oppressive. All at once the stillness was broken by the whir of the electric bell, which sounded so sharply in our ears that we both started. Henderson rose. "That's the 11:45 coming," he said, and going over to the 3 long levers, he pulled 2 of them down with a loud clang. The next moment, with a rush and a scream, the express tore down the cutting, the carriage lights streamed past in a rapid flash, the ground trembled, a few sparks from the engine whirled up into the darkness, and the train plunged into the tunnel. "And now," said Henderson as he pushed back the levers, "not another train till daylight. My word, it is cold." It was intensely so. I piled some more wood on the fire, and turning up the collar of my heavy ulster, sat down at one end of the bench and leant my back against the wall. Henderson did likewise. We were neither of us inclined to speak. As a rule, whenever I have any night work to do, I am never troubled with sleepiness, but on this occasion I felt unaccountably drowsy. I soon perceived that Henderson was in the same condition. "Are you sleepy?" I asked of him. "Dead with it, sir," was his answer. "But there's no fear. I won't drop off." I got up and went to the window of the box. I felt certain that if I sat still any longer I should be in a sound sleep. This would never do. Already it was becoming a matter of torture to keep my eyes open. I began to pace up and down. I opened the door of the box and went out on the little platform. "What's the matter, sir?" inquired Henderson, jumping up with a start. "I cannot keep awake," I said. "Nor can I," he answered. "And yet I have spent nights and nights of my life in signal boxes, and never was the least bit drowsy. Perhaps it's the cold." "Perhaps it is," I said. "But I have been out on as freezing nights before, and—" The man did not reply. He had sat down again. His head was nodding. I was just about to go up to him and shake him, when it suddenly occurred to me that I might as well let him have his sleep out. I soon heard him snoring, and he presently fell forward in a heap on the floor. By dint of walking up and down, I managed to keep from dropping off myself, and in torture which I shall never be able to describe, the night wore itself away. At last, towards morning, I awoke Henderson. "You've had a good nap," I said. "But never mind, I have been on guard and nothing has occurred." "Good God, have I been asleep?" cried the man. "Sound," I answered. "Well, I never felt anything like it," he replied. "Don't you find the air